The Jehovah's Witness leadership has finally come forward and made a public statement on their website, jw.org, about what happened at the Norwegian trial. And it was transparent, forthcoming, honest, and even provided Jehovah's Witnesses the tools to do objective research and find out for themselves what exactly was said and what went on. Is what I would be saying if we weren't dealing with the nincompoop for brains bozos that are the governing body and their PR team. Let's do this. Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and today we are looking at the public statement from jw.org, and it's a bit of a head scratcher, kind of, because in the age of information, if you're going to just openly say nonsensical things, you're going to expose yourself to a lot of criticism. Now, I'm no legal expert here. I'm just some little goofy goober on YouTube that likes talking about stuff. So take everything I say with a little bit of a grain of salt, but it doesn't take a terribly long time or very much effort at all to figure out that they're not giving Jehovah's Witnesses the honest truth. Quickly, before we get into it, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps keep the channel alive and growing, so thank you for all of the support. With all of that being said, let's take a look at this article. March 28th, 2024, Norway. Jehovah's Witnesses to appeal unconstitutional ruling in Norway. The witnesses are just claiming that this ruling was unconstitutional. Why? How are they just going to immediately say that this ruling is unconstitutional? You have to take into context, though, how Jehovah's Witnesses have been programmed by their leadership when it comes to news stories, because we have a bunch of examples of them telling their members, hey, don't trust the news, don't trust these negative news reports. Hey, don't take my word for it. Here's a few examples that I can find probably in about 7 minutes.
So then she pulls out her phone and starts showing me stuff about witnesses.
What kind of stuff?
News stories, all negative and slanted. I tried to change the subject, but she just kept at it. Mum, I want us to get together, but I won't hear anything negative about my beliefs.
Jade, I know we weren't going to talk religion, but I must tell you this one thing that
Mum,
I read.
I thought we weren't going to talk about this.
Another example. Misinformation about Jehovah's organization and the governing body. Remember, lies create doubts and destroy trust. Some of what we can hear and read is based off misinformation campaigns of apostates. It may sound convincing, even to us. Even if we now say, I will not believe it anyway, I'm just curious to know what it is. Exposing ourselves to this kind of misinformation can create doubts and undermine our complete trust in the governing body. This makes us vulnerable.
Today's world, there's a constant flood of information coming at you from just about everywhere. It's good to stay informed. The problem is that not everything you hear or see is true. Some of it is misinformation. Opinions, half-truths, conspiracy theories, and even outright lies dressed up as facts. Misinformation isn't just inaccurate. It can also be dangerous.
So Jehovah's Witnesses are programmed to be terrified of the actual facts of the situation, and they become reliant on Watchtower of jw.org to give them the information, and they will only take this as credible. So I did a quick Google search of the Norwegian Constitution, and I found an English version. It said it's for information purposes. It's not an official one, so take that with a grain of salt. But here I did find this, and this was the only thing that I could even remotely get my head around that they might be talking about of the ruling being unconstitutional. All inhabitants of the realm shall have the right to free exercise of their religion. The Church of Norway, an evangelical Lutheran church, will remain the established Church of Norway and will as such be supported by the state. Detailed provisions as to its system will be laid down by law. All religious and belief communities should be supported on equal terms. I would find it easier to get inside the heads of the writing team of the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones than I would Watchtower, but this is what I've cooked up in my head here. So they look at all religious and belief communities should be supported on equal terms, and they think, okay, all of these other religions, all 700 of them, or around 700, I can't remember exactly, are receiving state funding and are viewed as a legitimate religion with registration. And yet we're the only ones that aren't. So therefore, it's unequal. But I don't think they have any concept of what the idea of equal terms are. So Watchtower, if you're watching this, I'm going to do it in the most basic, simple way that even you will understand. Imagine you have a highway and the speed limit is 50 miles an hour. There are 700 cars going down this road. All of them are going 50 miles an hour. Every single one. Boom, 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 boom. All 700. Except one. One of them is going 70 miles an hour. Now, if this person gets pulled over by a police officer, would they get out of the car and say, this is unconstitutional. You're violating my rights. This is violating the Constitution. All drivers are supposed to be treated equally. Sir, you are being treated equally, but you weren't driving like everyone else. You were the one that did this. You will be treated equally if you obey the rules, and you're not doing that, so therefore here's the consequence of it. It's not that complicated, Watchtower. You are the one that were violating the Children's Protection Act, therefore you have to deal with the consequences of that, or go 50 miles an hour like everyone else and you will get equal treatment. Anyway, let's get back to the article. On March 4th, 2024, the Oslo District Court upheld the Norwegian government's decision to revoke the legal registration of Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway. Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway will appeal the decision. This was always going to happen. This is just the district court. It will go to the Supreme Court. I believe even after it goes to the Supreme Court, I guess they can submit their appeal, then the Supreme Court would either take it up or just say, no, we respect the district court's decision. In my mind, because this is a new sort of precedent, I imagine that the Supreme Court would want to take a look at it. I'm no legal expert at all here, but I'm just saying, like, if there are 700 other religious, communities and Watchtower is the only one, maybe they would at least want to look into it further. So I could imagine it going to the Supreme Court. Even after that, I believe they can take it up with the European Court of Human Rights, which I don't know if it would really go that far, because an appeal after already hit the Supreme Court of Norway, I can't imagine that they would get very far going that route. So I guess we'll have to sort of see how that plays out over the next year or two. The position of the state now remains that it will continue to deny legal recognition to Jehovah's Witnesses in the country of Norway unless we change our practices regarding the removal of unrepentant wrongdoers from the congregation. Didn't you guys, just like a month ago, change your practices when it comes to minors living at home with their parents and sort of making that a gray area with your updated rules, basically saying instead of it going before the Star Chamber, judicial committee, they'll make it a more unofficial thing. Hey, we're going to check on you, make sure you're not an apostate or you're trying to spread stuff amongst the congregation. And as long as you're not doing that and you play nice, we won't disfellowship you. And also, if you are a disfellowshipped minor, basically you get a get out of jail free card and you can just come right back into the organization as long as you are living a clean life. So they already made changes, so they are capable, as recently of like a month ago, of making adjustments to this policy. So why can't they go when they're telling their rank and file Jehovah's Witnesses about this? Why aren't they getting a more detailed explanation? Because I'm going to assume that most ordinary witnesses aren't going to recall the old bearded toenail, talking about some of the adjustments that they're making to the disfellowshipping thing, because they're just happy to have a beard, not wear a tie, and ladies wearing pants. So that's one aspect of it. Now, the other aspect of this, I won't beat this into the ground, but if you remember the official statement from Norway, I'll just read you one paragraph just to solidify this, but it said, state subsidies and registration are refused on the grounds that Jehovah's Witnesses seriously violate the rights and freedoms of others. The state claims that Jehovah's Witnesses prevent the right to freedom of expression and expose baptized children to psychological violence and negative social control. This is said to be the effect of a religiously motivated practice, which means that no one in the congregation should have contact with former members who have been excluded, ostracized, or who have withdrawn. In the state's view, children's rights are also violated by another practice that applies to unbaptized minors who have the status of preachers. If they commit a serious sin as unbaptized, they cannot be ostracized, but they risk exclusion and social isolation from the community and the congregation, because the arrangement is that one must be careful in associating with the child. So this has to do with religious freedom. Someone saying, hey, I don't want to be of this faith anymore, and given an opportunity to change religions. Now, if you are going to lose your entire social structure, your friends, your family, if it could be even a physical harm to you because you are young, don't have a lot of experience in the world, you get kicked out of your house because you're an apostate. And remember, even with the new changes that they made, if someone wants to be an apostate, someone that leaves their former religion, they are going to experience all of the same negative consequences that they would have previously before they made these minor adjustments. So they don't have religious freedom. If you are a child growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, it is a violation of your religious freedom, point blank. So they can make these little minor adjustments however they want, but until they remove stuff about apostasy or spreading false information, quote unquote false information, then it's exactly the same, and you're going to experience everything exactly the same. But you'll see in here that the point is it is affecting children, and it was taken with the children and family ministry. That was where all of this even got started. So when Watchtower tries to make it about disfellowshipping, it is muddying the waters. So Jehovah's Witnesses are going to think, oh, so what? You just want to force us to be friends with everybody? That's ridiculous. That does sound unconstitutional. No, Jehovah's Witness. No, Norway. We as Jehovah's Witness have every right to have whichever friends that we choose. And that is how it's going to go into the minds. And that is why I think they're sort of tactically writing this. I don't think they're just being idiotic when they're coming out with this statement, but it is used as a way and a mechanism to control the sort of information that Jehovah's Witnesses are receiving. Now, editing Wally here. Sorry, this video is coming out a little bit tardy to the party. Had some internet issues. Anyway, I wanted to include something from the JW broadcast that just dropped, because David Splain has this bizarre veiled threat, I guess you could kind of call it, against any governments or opposers of Jehovah, i.e. Jehovah's organization, i.e. the governing body, me. So you better not oppose me because I have God on my side. So take a listen to what he says.
Even in countries where there's a measure of religious freedom, fighters against God have tried to prevent us from carrying out our commission. You need a permit to go from house to house. You can't offer magazines on the street. You people are a dangerous sect. They've even enacted laws directed at stopping our work. Unless they change their ways, those lawmakers are going to be in big trouble. The word has gone out. As you go, preach. That great work will be accomplished with their support or in spite of them. Well, as we mentioned, fighters against God sometimes seem to get away with their acts of rebellion, but they're on a slippery slope. I can't express it better than David did in Psalm 37, 1 and 2. Do not be upset because of evil men or envious of wrongdoers. They will quickly wither like grass and shrivel like green new grass. So, when you hear about powerful opposers who seem to be untouchable, remember what we've discussed. These men may seem to prosper for a while, but since they're fighting against God, they're more to be pitied than to be feared. They're on the wrong side. They are fighting a losing battle.
So this threat is kind of a non-threat because there's not a government that's going to be shaking in their boots thinking to themselves, oh my, I didn't know there's these supernatural aliens. Oh, Bill, we really got to think about making sure Jehovah's Witnesses get all the money they need to carry out their work. No, that's not a very realistic situation that's happening here. But what he's doing is trying to, as I've said throughout this whole video, is shape the narrative for the Jehovah's Witnesses that are listening to this. And one of the ways he does it is by arguing a general point, not a specific one. So, for instance, the Norwegian government, he doesn't even mention them by name. He just says, oh, governments, blah, blah, blah. What about the very specific issues with specific governments around the world? What are those issues, and can you address those? Instead of just generalizing it and saying, well, they don't want us to preach, so therefore Satan, therefore bad. Because that's what they want Jehovah's Witnesses to think. Well, if anyone offers any type of resistance to what we want to do of any kind, then just lump it all in with Satan. Anyway, editing Wally done here, and I'll see you guys probably tomorrow when I upload something about the JW broadcast. So